What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Thank you for joining me for another replay battle. Today I've got a 3 versus 4, another good versus evil matchup, pitting the forces of Gondor, a massive invasion force, in fact, to the tune of about 15,000 men against a defense force of 3 Haradrim armies. So it definitely promises to be a kick-ass battle. But before we get into it, let's take a look at the army compositions, and then we can get into the replay itself. Hope you guys enjoy it. So the first army we're going to be looking at today is one of the forces of Harad, being commanded by yours truly. I've got a couple units of Muhad tribesmen, 2 to be exact. I've also got 2 units of dismounted Serpent Guard, 2 units of mounted Serpent Guard, and 1 unit of my favorite unit in the game, my favorite cavalry unit in any case, that being the Serpent Bodyguards, who I can confirm for you will be getting a brand new unique model in the coming patches. So these guys are going to change a lot, and I think they're going to get a stat boost as well. Their stats are going to change. I don't know if it's going to be a boost or a nerf or what's going to happen, but they are going to look a lot cooler. I have seen the model. I don't want to ruin the surprise for you, but I can guarantee you guys are going to enjoy it. But in any case, I got 1 unit of Serpent Guard. They're a very, very badass medium cavalry unit with a couple of HP and some solid melee attack and defense values as well. I'm also bringing 1 unit of Ballista, because artillery is important. One of the rules for each of the teams is that each team can only bring 2 units of artillery, so not 1 per person, but 2 units of artillery across the entire team, and I happen to have 1 of them. I've also got 3 units of Southron Archers, 4 units of Southron Warbands, 3 units of Muhad Berserkers, so I'm stacking a lot of AP here because I know that the Gondorian units really rely on their armor values to stay alive, and most of my archers are not going to be able to fight them in close combat for a large amount of time, and I don't have enough Serpent Guard to go toe-to-toe with the much more efficient, much less expensive Gondorian units. I've also got 2 units of Trollmen, and that basically does it for my force. Let's go ahead and let's move on now to what my allies are bringing. The second Haradrim army we're going to look at is being commanded by WK, one of the developers of the mod, who is in charge of, oh god, so many things. Actually, he made the Karandros map, if you guys remember that from a little while ago when we played Pixelated Apollo and Jackie Fish. He was the mastermind behind that, and he's joining us today for a little bit of fun. So he's got 2 units, I believe, of Serpent Guard light cavalry. I love these guys. They're not quite as strong as the bodyguard version of them, as the bodyguard version, I should say, but they're very fast, very maneuverable, and easy to get a charge bonus off with. He's also got, I believe, 4 units of Serpent Guard. He's got a ton of Serpent Guard. He's also got 2 units of Trollmen, 1 unit of Demons of the Desert, which is a badass javelin unit that is essentially Trollmen, just less of them, and they've got a little bit more HP, and they can throw javelins. They have less armor, and they don't have a shield block chance, so they are very vulnerable to missiles, so you need to be careful with them, because especially accurate archers like the elves, for example, can chew these guys out very, very quickly. They also have the ability to hide anywhere, which makes them extremely useful for ambushes. He's also bringing, I believe, 4 units of Southron Archers. He's got the max amount of archers that you can take for this battle. He's also got some Hashari. You can see them right here. 1 unit of Southron Warband, which is hanging out in amongst, I believe, 4 units of Haradrim Spearmen, one of which has his general in them. And WK likes to do this. He will take his cheapest unit and he will stick his general in it. Actually, you can see his general right there. So that he can use all of his elites as freely as he needs them on the battlefield without having to worry about losing his general and therefore a ton of morale. Which is a good strategy. Honestly, it's one I'm considering trying out in some of my, my future battles. And last but not least, WK has a single unit of Mumakil. So the artillery player is not allowed Mumakil, but the non-artillery players are allowed to have one of them. So moving on over here to the third and final Haradrim army, we've got the army commanded by Coldfront, who is in fact a fellow Total War YouTuber. So I'm going to put a link for his channel down in the description. You guys can go and check that out on your free time. It is definitely worth it. He posts some great content. But in any case, he's got 1 unit of Mumakil. He's got a couple units of Trollmen. I believe 4 units of Muhad Berserkers, who are just, they're awesome support troops. They can do okay on the front lines against some of the Gondor infantry, but they definitely don't have the defense stats to survive in a prolonged melee. So for that reason alone, I recommend that you use them as support troops. He's also brought I believe, 3 units of Serpent Guard, 4 units of Southron Warband, one of the few AP spear units in the game, who are just fantastic. The Southron Warband is a mainline unit for Harad. They're very cheap, and they're very, very deadly. I think people really not outnumber them. They underestimate the Southron Warband because of how they look. They don't look particularly impressive. They're just like kind of light, maybe medium tier spearmen, but they have a lot of damage behind them. Very, very comparable to some of the Elven factions. Cold Front's also bringing some Haradrim archers, just for the massive volley fire, and he's got an elite archer pick here in the form of the Hashari Shadows. He's also got one unit of Demons of the Desert, who are, I think we explained these guys earlier, they're basically trollmen with javelins. They are very, very strong. That just about does it for the Haradrim team. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at what Gondor is bringing to bear today. The first Gondor army we're going to be looking at today is the force commanded by Master Blaster. He is bringing one unit of Trebuchet, which is very nicely placed up here on this hill, able to basically bombard everything in front of it. He's got, I believe, 3 units of Gondor Spearmen, 3 units of Axemen of Lasarnak, 1 unit of Shielded Fountain Guard, 1 unit of Pelargir Marines, 3 units of Gondor Militia, 3 units of Gondor Infantry, and 1 unit of Wardens of the White Tower, who are a fantastic line infantry unit. These guys are basically the Gondorian equivalent to the dismounted Dunedain Knights. They've got 3 HP, they don't cost a whole lot, and they've got some really formidable attack and defense stats. One of the things they lack is AP, however, so they are best used, I think, against units that are, because of their high attack values, units that are high on melee defense, for example, or just generally unarmored units across the board. He has also got a very strong contingent of archers. You can't quite see all of them. There's 2 units of Rangers of Ithilien right there, 1 unit of Gondor Citadel archers, and 1 unit of Veterans of Osgiliath, who are awesome. These guys are probably some of the most versatile units you're going to see in the Gondorian faction. They are really strong archers, probably some of the most survivable in the game, because of their large shield value and their armor bonus as well. But they're also really strong heavy infantry after the fact. So they are definitely a welcome roster to the Gondorian faction. They're supposed to be the soldiers that were garrisoned at Osgiliath, and they definitely look like it. They look like they've seen some shit. But that just about does it, I think, for Master Blaster's army. So let's take a look at his ally over here, this being the force of Dino Man. By far one of the smaller Gondorian forces, but I think it's safe to say that it's more elite. He's got, I believe, 2 units of Shielded Fountain Guard here. You can see them on the front lines, looking very sexy with their giant green tower shields. They're a little bit less offensively minded than the 2-handed spear version of this Fountain Guard, but they are much better at standing up to arrows and missile fire just generally. And I think they just, across the board, they have a bit of a survivability buff at the cost of some of their damage. Behind them, he's got, I believe, 4 units of Gondorian infantry. He's also got 1 unit of Gondor militia stationed over here on his left flank. 2 units of Pelargir Marines. It was supposed to be 1 unit of Pelargir Marines per player, but I think there was a little bit of confusion there, so it's not that big a deal. So he's got a couple units of Pelargir Marines and 1 unit of Wardens of the White Tower. To top it all off, he's got a couple units of Lasarnak nobles, who are badass. These guys, honestly, if they had HP, they would be the best shock unit in the game. They've got 30 AP damage and like 20 charge bonus, so you charge these guys into something important and they will hack it to bloody pieces. They're definitely a strong addition to this Gondor army, and he's right down here in the valley, so he's getting ready for a rush. So I'm sure we're going to see some action from those Lasarnak nobles right off the bat. Over here we have what is probably the best put together, in my opinion, Gondorian force, this being the force of Skinny. He's got 2 units of Citadel Guard archers, a couple units of Veterans of Osgiliath, making his ranged force far and away the most deadly of any of the Gondor armies we've seen so far. He's got himself a couple units of Lasarnak nobles as well. I believe 2 or 3 units of Gondorian spearmen, 2 or 3 units of Gondor infantry, 1 unit of Pelargir Marines, and he's got a unit of Gondorian winged swordsmen in the back here, who are pretty decent. They're, again, not the best shock troops in the game, but I'd say they're more or less the equivalent of the Arnorian dismounted, not Dunedain Knights, but the dismounted Arthedain Knights. That's the one. The ones with the 2-handed swords. They're pretty damn good. Although I recommend if you use these guys, you get their charge bonus going as quickly as possible. They've got pretty good survivability, so charge them in, then get them back out, and cycle back in with another charge. Not something people are used to doing with their infantry units, but definitely worth it in the case of that particular unit. In the back, he's got 1 unit of General's Bodyguard, which is where his general's going to be hanging out, of course. You can see the handsome devil right there, hanging out with his retinue. And his front line, this is really good too. He's got an expendable front line composed of 3 units of Gondor Militia and some Axemen of Lasarnak to back them up. So again, you can see what I mean. This is probably the best put together Gondor army, certainly the most balanced. Moving on now to the 4th and final attacking Gondor army, we have the army of Ragnar Ironhide. He's got 1 unit of Gondor Militia, 6 units of Gondor Infantry, that being the full complement, 2 units of Gondor Archers, 2 units of Citadel Guard Spearmen, who are multiple HP. These guys are they are very much the epitome of Gondor's kind of strategy when it comes to war. That being a strong defense is a strong offense. These guys are fantastic holding troops, and they've got pretty decent damage as well, so they can inflict some casualties on their enemies before they expire. He's also got 1 unit of Pelargian Marines, you can see them right there, 1 unit of Ballistas. We've got the second piece of artillery for the Gondorian team over here, and he's got a couple units of the regular, if you can call this elite unit regular, Fountain Guard. Fountain Guard across the board, even the shielded variant, are AP, so this particular offensively minded unit will do a ton of work to anything you put in front of, especially heavy cavalry because of the large bonus they get against mounted foes. In behind them, we got some Gondor Citadel archers to the tune of about 2 of them, and last but not least, we have a general's bodyguard for Gondor, which is where his general is hanging out. A quick note on the general's bodyguard: they are very similar on their face to the Dale Earls and things like that. So they're pretty decent melee cavalry. They've got a good charge bonus, but they do actually have a passive hidden malice against fighting other cavalry units. So they will lose to other cav despite their stats. So if you get surprised a little bit by seeing these guys fight a cavalry unit that you think that they should beat, that would be why. They are very much focused on taking down infantry. So if you're going to fight cav with them, make sure you support them because they are going to need it. But in any case, that just about does it for the army compositions. Let's go ahead and let's get into the battle. So the battle is going to get started with some serious aggression on the part of the attacking Gondorian forces. And there's a few good reasons for why I think somebody might do this. The first, and I think most obvious, is that the Haradrim forces definitely don't have a lot of advantages over the Gondorians in close combat. Especially not this front line here of Haradrim Spearmen. Like, this is a big opportunity, I think, for Gondor to surge in there, sweep away the front line, maybe even disrupt the skirmishing forces. So those 2 reasons, I think, are a big part of it. But third and most important is that this army is expendable. There's about 3,000 to 4,000 more Gondorians on the field than there are Haradrim. If Dinoman can get in there, cause a lot of casualties, a lot of havoc, and force us to commit a lot of forces to stop him, one, it does leave us vulnerable because we may have to commit our Mumakil in order to do this, which leaves them open to Pelargian Marines. And the Mumakil are very much the crux of the Haradrim defense in this battle. And 2, if he can inflict a serious amount of casualties on us, there's already a ton more Gondorians than there are Haradrim, and that could potentially cripple our defense. So the Haradrim players, when we see this, we know we're going to have to be really careful. And the goal is obviously, in all engagements you want to do this, but in this particular instance, particularly, we want to inflict a disproportionate amount of casualties on the attacking Gondorians than what we receive ourselves. So for that reason, WK is actually moving forward with his Haradrim Spearmen to form a battle line. These guys are going to be a buffer to allow us to get some more of our forces into the fight. You can see WK responding with some Serpent Guard and things like that, looking like he wants to exploit the gap here in the Gondorian lines while it still exists, which is honestly really smart play. Just has to be careful there about those stakes. You don't want to accidentally, skewer your own Serpent Guard. And there's a lot of Serpent Guard that are just running right through there. But so far, they've managed to not kill themselves at all, which is very impressive. But yeah, the Serpent Guard, they're trying to scoot their way through the lines and get in behind the Gondorians. You can see those Gondor militia really not appreciating that very much. Almost on the verge of routing. I think if those Serpent Guards stuck around in combat just for a little bit longer, they might have been able to rout that flank. But WK now getting in behind the lines with his Serpent Guard, looking to take a bite, of course, out of the Pelargian Marines. What else would he be going for? These are the biggest danger to the Haradrim defense, because as I mentioned earlier, our Mumakil are going to be our lifeline. That's where you can see these Lasarnak nobles surging forward, getting into my Southron warband. That is going to be a tough fight for my warband. I'm trying to shower them down with Southron archers. I've actually got some Muhads moving in there as well to support that Southron warband main line and deal with these heavily armored shock troops, but it's not going to be an easy fight. My Haradrim don't have the defense to stand up to these guys, and look at the damage that charge is going to cause to them. That was only a few of them charging into combat. That was like maybe a dozen or so. My Muhad Berserkers now getting in there, getting stuck in amongst the Lasarnak nobles and the Southron warbands. These guys will hold for a while. We've got the numbers to do it and the AP, I think, to keep these guys in check for a while. But you can see on the main line now, WK, his Haradrim Spearmen giving him the opportunity to get formed up. We've actually got some Southron Warband in there in support as well of the many battalions of Serpent Guard that he's arranged as his second line. So the Gondorians are not going to be able to punch through as quickly as I think as they wanted to be able to, but they are going to shred those Haradrim Spearmen on the front line and inflict some serious casualties to our holding units, and then they're going to get into the Serpent Guard. And the Serpent Guard are going to struggle. They are more expensive than the Gondorian infantry, and their stats aren't all that much better. So the Serpent Guard don't have the numbers as well that the Gondorians have. So this is going to be... I mean, it looks like a lot of Serpent Guard, and we know that the Serpent Guard are elite, but it's not going to be an easy fight at all. Let's take a moment here, just get down into the battle. Slowly move along the line, get a sense of the scale of this conflict. Literally 20,000 troops on this battlefield fighting it out. You can see more Gondorian reinforcements pouring in there. It looks like some more troops from Dino Man, some of the Wardens of the White Tower. Them combined with the Lasarnak nobles, that's a lot to have to deal with. You can see WK in the back here with the Serpent Guard looking for another opportunity to get into the back there and maybe get a piece of those Pelargir Marines, but unfortunately the pathfinding not going to let that happen, and they are going to get countercharged by the Wardens of the White Tower. Dino Man definitely not being caught unawares here, and the Serpent Guard are going to be forced to retreat or else take heavy casualties. WK doesn't want to lose those guys just yet. We still have a lot of Pelargir Marines to deal with, so yeah, wants to keep a Serpent Guard alive for as long as possible. Now I'm focusing all of my my South-run archers on that one unit of Pelargir Marines. We definitely want to take these guys down. We've got the Serpent Guard holding them in place, preventing them from tossing their javelins into either our back lines or our front lines, which would be devastating. And so far, we're slowly managing to deal with this with one of the hard counters to our Mumakil. Over here, you can see some veterans of Osgiliath moving forward. Both companies, in fact, being committed to the battle. I forgot to mention these guys in the army composition phase, but he's got two of them, and he's also got a unit of, you can see them in the back there, Wardens of Minas Ithil, all of whom are very powerful archer units. And these veterans of Osgiliath, of course, are a very strong main line. So Gondor doing a good job so far at getting stuck in and really beginning to push us. You can see the Serpent Guard. It says victory is a distinct possibility, but you can see they've taken a lot of heavy casualties. And this is just Gondor infantry. This is nothing special. Our Serpent Guard are our elites, and the Gondorians are holding their own quite nicely against them. So let's take a look at what's going on over here just to get a quick sense of what his allies are doing. Looks like Shiny has moved up with, or Skinny rather, has moved up with his Citadel Guard archers. And these guys are really, really very deadly. And I think in Reforged, fire arrows do about 3 times more damage than regular arrows. And of course they do the morale damage as well. So he's just kind of peppering down our main line here. And just generally being a bit of a nuisance to us. Elsewhere, the Serpent Guard having a little bit of success on the left flank. I think that's where the Gondorian militia were stationed. And you actually see them breaking now, fleeing in the face of those elite units, who are now going to surge forward. WK moving up some of his trollmen to try and break this flank and roll up the Gondorian line. The lack of a hard unit to fall back on here for Gondor has really become a problem for them and allowed the Haradrim an opportunity to potentially effect a breakthrough here and rout this entire line, which would be a very big loss for the Gondorians. So things going pretty well according to plan for the Haradrim so far. We've definitely made some opportunities for ourselves and are now in the process of capitalizing on them. The Gondorians in the center, though, not given any ground. Says defeat is a possibility for these mainline troops, but look at this. There's just so many of them, and there's not enough Serpent Guard really to hold these guys back. I've actually committed some of my South-run warband to that fight now, but the Gondorians have, in measure, committed both companies of their Shielded Fountain Guard, who are AP, and that's a great unit to throw against the Serpent Guard, who rely a lot on their armor. Down here, though, on the right flank, the Gondorians definitely given us the business. My Muhad Berserkers and my Warband, look at this, they've been cut up quite badly. And it looks like the Gondorians might be able to make their own breakthrough here. They've just shredded us, and I think this might have been because of their missiles. They were definitely focusing on this portion of the line. So this is a deliberate act on the part of the Gondorians to try and break through with some of their most offensively minded units, which could cause us serious problems. The same kind of problems that you're seeing for the Gondorians on the other end. So I've actually brought up some of my Muhad tribesmen to try and deal with these Gondorians and those Lasarnak nobles, but they unfortunately got skirmished down themselves, so they're now very, very weak. Only about 31 left in the unit, not quite enough to make the difference that we need. More and more Gondorian missile fire pouring in, and we can see that things are getting desperate. Our Serpent Guard are going to start to fail in the line pretty soon. I've actually had to commit one of my elite units of Trollmen, defeat a certainty for them, fighting against these Gondorians who are managing to break through the line. They've really thinned out the Serpent Guard. So now we are going to have to fall back on our Triarii, that being our Mumakil. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to fast forward that a little bit here. We've actually managed to neutralize the Pelargir Marines at this point with sustained missile fire. So we are going to have a safe kind of opportunity to use these Mumakil. And they're going to charge right through that line of Gondorians and precipitate a massive rout. Look at that, 123 Gondorians running for the hills, and even the Fountain Guard not able to stand up to the mighty terror weapon that are the Mumakil, Fountain Guard now fleeing backwards with a healthy unit of Gondorian infantry, which are just being peppered down from the rear. Just relentless amounts of missiles coming in, not only from our mainline South-run archers, but also from the heights up here. You can see us really trying to capitalize on this loss from the Gondorians. WK now moving in his Mumakil over to the left flank, where we are really suffering. Look at this. They're in amongst the Wardens of the White Tower and the Lasarnak nobles, and now the Haradrim are starting to pull it back from the brink. The South-run warband reinforcements that I brought in are really starting to push back against the Gondorians, and these Mumakil are just causing an endless amount of problems. You see some Gondor militia here running away, and I think maybe some of the Gondorian infantry as well. Another big rout precipitated by the addition of those Mumakil. Oh man, some withering Gondorian fire, though, coming in from the heights. I believe that's where that would be Master Blaster as his trebuchet. Great position here to get some enfilading shots all along the line of the Haradrim. And you can see that we've basically broken the Gondorian main line. So now that we've made ourselves this kind of huge gap in the Gondorian defenses, we are going to surge forward. You can see the Serpent Guard and the Trollmen already beginning to move forward to try and capitalize on this as much as possible. These are my Trollmen moving forward. The Serpent Guard soon to be close behind. The plan at this point was to overtake the archers, surround some of these veterans of Osgiliath and things like that, some of the more elite units, and just do as much damage to these guys as possible before the Gondorian reinforcements and the routing Gondorian troops are able to turn around and reform. You can see Master Blaster moving in as the second wave, trying to cover the retreat of his ally Dinoman. Dinoman's really had a lot of trouble there on the main line. See, the Master Blaster has brought in all of his archer companies. He's in a great position to cover that retreat. So if the Haradrim forces push too far forward, this could become a slaughter. So it definitely behooves the Haradrim defenders to utilize a little bit of discretion here. But definitely we want to take down these Gondorian veterans of Osgiliath, but unfortunately they are just being used as a pinning force, and we've got arrow fire coming in from both sides. So the Haradrim have done great so far, really done a lot of damage to that first wave of Gondorians, but now getting perhaps a little bit too aggressive moving forwards and getting themselves, I think, a little bit caught out by a ton of elite archers. And you can see the Trollmen of Harad really beginning to suffer at the hands of all of these missiles. Over here, WK moving forward with his Serpent Guard, trying to get a piece of those Gondorians as they rout. But honestly, at this point, now is the time for the Haradrim to fall back. They've done what they can, and they've done a lot of work on the Gondorian forces, but now it's time to flee. And you can see that Skinny has actually moved in to contest the flank here with the remaining Haradrim forces. There's some of WK's Trollmen, and what remains of his Haradrim spearmen who are going toe-to-toe with everything that remains of Dino Man's forces, the ones who didn't flee, and the new arrivals from Skinny's army, some of his frontline infantry in the form of the Axemen of Lasarnak. So the Haradrim need to fall back, and indeed they recognize the danger that they are in and are beginning to flee out of there as quickly as possible. But after taking very heavy casualties, look at this. Yes, we took down the veterans of Osgiliath. They are now combat ineffective, but look what we lost in return. Just dozens of Serpent Guard, and many of our Trollmen died to take down those veterans of Osgiliath. So it ended up being kind of a mixed bag. A lot of Gondorians have definitely fallen, and the percentages not even in the slightest, however, because of getting a little bit too far forward there and getting shot down by the archers. So you can see kind of a general retreat here from the Haradrim. I'm actually pulling out my Serpent Guard and leaving my South-run Warband, my very depleted South-run Warband over here, to do what they can against the depleted units of Wardens of the White Tower and the Lasarnak Axemen. But largely, this very elite force of Gondorians has been shattered and almost completely destroyed. Some of them are going to reform. You can see a little bit of reforming here amongst the Gondor infantry. And I think we've still got some of his veterans of Osgiliath who are in a pretty good shape over here. But by and large, Dino Man's forces have been swept from the field. Some of the Shielded Fountain Guard are going to come back, but they are exhausted and quite weakened as well. So it's hard to say who's come out on top in this particular engagement. It's definitely been very bloody for both sides. Let's move on over here. You can see that Ragnar has now descended from the hills to contest this particular passage through the hills with a Haradrim. We've got Cold Fronts over here, whose forces have yet to be tested, formed up in a beautiful shield wall with his South-run Warband. That is a lot of AP spear units that the Gondorians are going to have to push through, and I'm sure that the Haradrim are going to be able to inflict some serious casualties on them. And of course, he's got some more reinforcements over here, and I'm actually bringing up a couple of my Serpent Guard. Inspired by WK's aggressive move with his Serpent Guard earlier, I'm actually going to bring my 2 units of regular Serpent Guard out and around around and try and deal with some of the Gondorians over on this sense. We're actually going to slow it down just a little bit here so we don't miss too much on the other fronts. But my strategy is largely to thin out the reserves of the Gondorian forces. We really want to even out that numbers gap, especially given that the percentages are what they are. We've lost half of our forces in the early stages of the battle, so Dino Man's gambit has really paid off for him at this point, and now it's going to be up to us to try and reduce the advantage that the Gondorians have in terms of sheer manpower. So you can see my Serpent Guard here lining up a nice charge against the Gondorian infantry. The idea here is to kind of distract them with this unit here that I'm kind of moving around as a flanking unit, and charge directly into the front of these Gondorian infantry, just to keep the Citadel Guard kind of guessing and not letting them bring their full force to bear in any one area against my Serpent Guard. So my Serpent Guard are going to take a nice bite out of those Gondorians, taking down about 40 or so of them, maybe about 50. They got some from the other unit as well. But they are going to have to retreat in a hail of arrows from the Gondorians who have formed up their Gondor archers in the back there. But this Serpent Guard unit, I'm determined to do more damage to these guys. So we're going to get another charge into the front of those Gondorian infantry. Not as good as I wanted it to be, but still quite effective. We've taken down probably about 100 or so of those Gondorian infantrymen. And now I'm going to be forced to retreat. You can actually see a lot of the Citadel Guard now moving in to check the advances of my Serpent Guard. So I'm going to pull back that one unit of Serpent Guard, keep these guys guessing because they're a little bit overextended, and move around with the rest of my Serpent Guard and go for another big charge. At the same time, Cold Front moving in with his Mumakil to just wreak havoc because the Pelargir Marines... Actually, no, the Pelargir Marines are a little bit too close, and I think I was like, Cold Front, no, please don't do this, and encouraging him to get his Mumakil out of there as quickly as possible. But because of that threat of the Pelargir Marines and wanting to use our Mumakil to the greatest effect that we can here, I am going to try and keep this main line busy, open up gaps, and I've actually slipped a unit of my Serpent Guard in behind. So you can see those Javelins getting a nice shot there, and the Mumakil already beginning to go down. So now is the time to act. So I've actually brought my Serpent Guard in and around using the gaps in their lines to sneak that unit through. And now I'm charging directly for those Pelargir Marines with my one of my stronger units of Serpent Guard. Big charge going in to those Javelin men. Going to silence them. They're actually going to get a nice shot there and take down a couple of my Serpent Guard, which was very surprising. But this is going to leave my Serpent Guard vulnerable in the rear to those Gondorian archers. But honestly, at this point, if I can trade Serpent Guard for the destruction of one of these Pelargir Marines, I'm more than willing to do so. So I'm going to try and pull them out, try and get as much effectiveness as possible out of these guys. We can see another attack going in over here. My Serpent Guard light cavalry also trying to scoot through here, running afoul of the General's bodyguard. I really don't want to leave these guys in there for too long because I know that General's bodyguard has a lot of HP and can do a lot of damage to my Serpent Guard. My Serpent Guard may win, but they'll take such heavy casualties that it just won't be worth it. So I'm going to pull them out as quickly as possible and try and get them in behind enemy lines so that I can be a nuisance a little bit later. We're actually going to get out of here in just a few seconds. We're just one final charge here into those Gondorian archers because they're being such a pain right now, and I want to give my Serpent Guard over there the opportunity to kill as many of those Pelargir Marines as possible. So a nice charge into the Gondorian archers. We're going to cleave right through them, do a lot of damage, and I'm just going to run my Serpent Guard straight through. I know that cavalry is right behind, and my Serpent Guard have the mass to kind of push their way through. Most of the unit is going to get through. The Gondorian bodyguard is going to get a nice piece of them, though, and I'm just trying to get my Serpent Guard out of there to be as big of a nuisance as possible. So I'm actually going to fast forward just a little bit, and you can see what my Serpent Guard have set their sights on. That one unit of Ballista over there from Ragnar Ironhide. So we're going to even out the artillery engagement, or rather tilt it in our favor, because artillery is going to be also quite important for us as well in terms of free kills, basically, on infantry units that can't respond to them. So the Serpent Guard gonna charge right for that Ballista, get themselves stuck in, and that is going to be, unfortunately for the Ballista, all she wrote. The Gondorian cavalry way too far behind, getting kind of bogged down in their own units, and I think fighting some of my rear guard, just not able to respond quickly enough, and so that Ballista is going to get wiped out. Let's move back over here, and you can see that the Haradrim forces have reformed. For the most part, I think we left maybe some of our rear guard back here, and they were swept away by the Lasarnic Axemen. But we did manage to save a fair amount of our forces. So we've got some Muhad Berserkers here, who unfortunately are very vulnerable to missiles and should probably be a little bit farther back. But we've still got a couple units of Trollmen in decent shape. I'm actually retreating my Ballista, which was previously up there on the hill. You can see there's a bit of a massacre that took place up here. WK's still got an ace in the hole, however, in terms of Demons of the Desert up there in a nice little flanking position to be used when they're needed. But we've got a lot of Serpent Guard left on our main line still. And we've got a few of our Southron Warband and things like that. And of course I've got my Trollmen units, and we've got archers. So this is going to be a tough fight for us. We're definitely thin on the ground, although not as bad as it could have been if we had continued to push forward earlier on in the battle. Let's move on back over here. The Gondorians have now engaged the front lines. We've actually got some Citadel Guard in here trying to push through the Southron Warband, but they are having a lot of trouble, and that is because of the AP that the Southron Warband can bring to bear. It is a really unique thing to have a AP spear unit, especially one that is as cost-effective as the Southron Warband. And I think that for that reason, almost entirely by itself, Harad has a lot of potential as a faction. You can build around having strong AP and strong offensive-minded units that are quite quick but lightly armored. So it's a really good playstyle, and I think that they can definitely be one of the stronger factions in the game when played correctly and you pick your battles. But let's move on now. That Ballista got wiped out by my Serpent Guard. You can see my Serpent Guard down here doing a little bit of work trying to thin out the Gondorian skirmishers, because the skirmishers can do a lot of damage to us. I'm not too sure whose general that was. I think it might have been Shiny's general, however. And yeah, so the Gondorians have lost one of their generals, but it doesn't really matter too much. Nobody's going to rout anytime soon. But yeah, as I was saying, the missile units, because Harad is so lightly armored, are a really big threat to us just generally across the board. So I'm trying to deal with their missile units as best as I possibly can with these hammer and anvil charges in order to save ourselves a lot of pain and agony a little bit farther down the road. So you can see the maneuverability of the Serpent Guard, which I am always like extolling the praises of, managing to skirt away before the Gondorian bodyguard unit can really react. So we've done a lot of damage, wiped out a lot of their archer companies and one of their artillery pieces, and my Serpent Guard still only just tired but still fast enough to be able to quickly move out of striking distance of the Gondorians. Yeah, the Serpent Guard are going to be able to get away, and I think they're going to move a little bit farther back over here to try and lend a hand in this little line battle that's going on in the canyon over here. And there's a good reason for that. I noticed that the Gondorians didn't have any more cavalry over here to counter my Serpent Guard. So really, this infantry kind of blob is very, very vulnerable to counter charges. And you can see my Serpent Guard here. Looks like they're going to go for the Pelargir Marines from Ragnar Ironhide. Going to get a beautiful charge off into the rear. Deal a lot of damage to those Pelargir Marines. But you can see the Gondorians still in hot pursuit. The General's Bodyguard, I think, knows what I have planned. So my Serpent Guard aren't going to be able to stay in there for too long and wipe out the rest of those Pelargir Marines. So they are still going to be a threat, but we've definitely minimized that threat, I think, by a significant margin. Unfortunately, Ragnar, I think, lost a little bit of micro on his General's Bodyguard, so my Serpent Guard is going to be able to get another charge off into those Gondorian archers, thinning out the archer companies just that much more for Gondor. But we'll come back to that Serpent Guard in just a few moments. Let's see how things are going over here. Looks like some of Ragnar Ironhide's forces were trying to push through this gap here, commanded by Coldfront. He's got a lot of his Serpent Guard stationed here, and the Gondorians really had a hard time with it. Actually, WK came in with his Mumakil to lend a hand, and some of his Hashari as well. So Ragnar really suffering at this point. I think that's because he's not getting a lot of support from his allies. Skinny is still nearby and could be giving him a little bit of support, but unfortunately most of his army is really stationary at this point. And I think that that's going to start to have some consequences for Gondor moving into the mid-game. Over here you can see, I think this is everything that's left of Dino Man's forces taking point while Master Blaster's army forms up behind them, engaging now the front lines of WK and myself, which we are managing to push back reasonably well right now, which I think this is maybe a bit of an issue. There probably shouldn't have been these units on the front line, but I think Dino Man maybe had to leave or something like that, so he just kind of went all in with his troops and is just doing as much damage to the Haradrim as at all possible. Still got artillery fire pouring forth from that canyon up there, in a great position to do a lot of damage to us. Actually, they fried some Mumakil here. That would be some of Coldfront's Mumakil from earlier. It's a very, very unfortunate loss for him. There's a couple of expensive units killed in just a couple seconds. So we're trying to manage our reserves well here with these dismounted Serpent Guard, not wanting to commit too much to one area because we are definitely afraid of that trebuchet up there. So let's move back on to this other side and see what the Serpent Guard have managed to accomplish. They're still preying on the Gondorian archers. I think they might have got a hammer and anvil strike, but unfortunately fate has caught up with them, as have the Gondorian bodyguard. And they're going to get a beautiful rear charge into the rear of the Serpent Guard, and they're going to wipe them out pretty much in a matter of seconds. Yeah, there's really like one or two of the Serpent Guard left, just holding up those archers and doing as much damage as possible. But over on the main line, Gondor has suffered very heavily. You can see the result of a couple of hammer and anvil charges right here, taking down a lot of, not the Fountain Guard, but there's a lot of Gondorian infantry and some Gondorian archers that ran out of ammunition that were dead in there as well. And still, the Gondorians are no closer to breaking through this line. Even with the addition of the Fountain Guard, Harad just has so many bodies that they can bury the Gondorians behind. Citadel Guard not having much luck either. And against this this very numerous Southron warband, which I think is in defensive formation and is, of course, AP, as I've said several times, the heavily armored Gondorians of Ragnar are really going to struggle. And I think without support, he is actually going to lose this fight. So he definitely needs his allies to get their rears in gear and to move in and support him in that endeavor. Skinny's still very, very healthy, and of course Master Blaster is in really good shape as well, his army only having recently arrived on the battlefield. So the Gondorians have done a lot of damage to us. We've managed to even out the percentage a little bit just by taking down the forces of Ragnar Ironhide. Over here you can see a big sally forth from Gondor. Actually, we've got some forces up here. He knows now that WK's Demons of the Desert are up here. I think they've tossed their entire javelin payload, and they are now trying to scoot through the Gondorian lines before the Gondorians can trap them up here on this bluff. But it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be close. See, the rest of the Haradrim forces actually reforming. We're moving forward and being very, very aggressive, trying to take advantage of the commitment that the Gondorians under Master Blaster are making up onto this hill. There is an opportunity to surround them and to break a large number of Gondorian militia, which will thin out the numbers even more in our favor. And of course, we've got our infantry units and such surging forward to try and take the Gondorians while they're still disorganized. And we've got our artillery up there, which is now raining down death and destruction upon these veterans of Osgiliath and the wardens of Minas Ithil. Another attack being led by WK's Mumakil. I don't think they have any more Pelargir Marines in the area, so now is a good time to commit them. We've managed, I think, to deal with most of that javelin threat in the center. The WK looking like maybe he's vacillating a little bit in that regard. Doesn't quite know if he wants to commit his Mumakil to this kind of fight or not. Trollmen of WK moving forward, looking like they're trying to. Maybe one unit is going to cut off the reinforcements of Gondorian militia, which have actually fallen back here to reform and form a proper line against the advancing Haradrim, which is going to turn out to be a problem because the Mumakil are going to follow up that thrust by the Trollmen of Harad, get right in there amongst the Gondorian militia rather, and that is going to be an ugly state of affairs for them. Look at this. Just the presence of those Mumakil is enough to terrify those guys. We've actually got some Javies down here under Master Blaster trying to toss upwards into the Mumakil, but because of the hill, they're not going to be able to hit them, and the Mumakil are going to get in to the Gondorians who are fighting the Demons of the Desert. So rescue has apparently been affected quite handily by the Haradrim for that elite unit of javelins. These X-Men of Lasarnak and the militia just not going to be able to stand up to these two terror units. Yeah, look at that. Those Mumakil just going crazy, doing whatever they want. No one seems to be able to stop them. And WK is going to get them out of there before the Gondorians are able to take them down with their missiles. And now, because of the positioning of the Pelargir Marines and this mass rout that those Mumakil have affected, the Trollmen are going to be able to surge forward and actually tie up the Pelargir Marines in melee. The Pelargir Marines now trying to fall back and reform, but they are wavering. I think this may actually be Master Blaster's, because of Master Blaster's general dying, that these units are so feeble in terms of morale. And indeed, the Pelargir Marines are going to rout. So this has been a big victory for the forces of Harad right here, managing to rout that notoriously unstable Gondorian left flank once again. Over here in the center, though, we've got some Gondor Citadel archers backing up the Axemen of Lasarnak. They are not so easily spooked, fighting hard against the Trollmen of Harad, and they're actually managing to do a fair amount of damage to them. Over here you can see some Hashari under WK leading the way with the Haradrim Axemen. Big countercharge here from the Axemen of Lasarnak. Going to get into those lightly armored units, AP not so great against the Hashari. They don't have a ton of armor, and largely they rely on their melee defense. And apparently the X-Men of Sarnak agree with that sentiment, so they're going to fall back very, very quickly and get out of there as fast as possible. See some more reinforcements being mobilized here by Master Blaster. Some exhausted Citadel Archers moving forward to try and plug the gaps in the lines, maybe even surround and destroy this unit of Trollmen from WK. Unfortunately, the Demons of the Desert are moving in to countercharge these guys, so it is not going to work out nearly as well as the Gondorians are hoping. You can see the Mumakil still active in the back, looking like they want to go get a piece of that center line and rout those Gondor Citadel Archers. So a lot of routing and reforming going on from Gondor here. And actually, we've managed to break through in a few places. You can see some of the Muhad Berserkers have managed to get in behind enemy lines, probably chasing those Gondor militia, and are now running afoul of the veterans of Osgiliath. That is going to be a big mistake for those Muhad Berserkers, rather. They are going to get cut up in melee by those elite archers. But look at this. Looks like we're seeing more and more routing. Some more Axemen of Lasarnak now fleeing off the battlefield, leaving the Gondorians really thin in terms of manpower and just unable to hold their main line. So Harad, being very aggressive now, is actually surging forward and just constantly pushing back the fronts and trying to prevent the Gondorians from being able to reform. You can see some reinforcements here, some fresh infantry from Master Blaster, a large number of Gondorians now moving in. But I think this is a mistake. Look at this. Look how bunched up they are. This definitely needs to be a wider front to try and take on the rest of the Haradrim forces. They've still got the numbers, and they've still got reinforcements in terms of shield, the Fountain Guard, and elite units like that. So they need to widen their front. Otherwise, they're going to be very vulnerable to another charge from those Mumakil, or indeed the Ballista up there in the hill. And look at that, already beginning to fire. That Ballista, it really wants a piece of this blob. This is just such a juicy target for it. Go ahead and fast forward a little bit and see if I manage to notice this big opportunity here for my artillery. No, it's looking like no. Oh, yes, there we go. Just look at the damage over time that this can do to the Gondorians. That's flaming ammunition as well. So this could precipitate another rout, especially from Master Blaster's infantry. Look at them, already shaken. Yeah, the Gondorians definitely need to even out their lines a little bit here. Otherwise, they are going to find themselves surrounded. WK already looking like he's going to take advantage of that fact, moving in with his Haradrim to surround that Gondorian infantry blob. There is some reformed Axemen of Sarnak now charging into battle against those Haradrim spearmen, looking for a nice flank charge. WK is going to respond by wheeling around and charging right into them. Axemen of Lasarnak, exhausted as they are, not going to have a good time against the very numerous, albeit lightly armed and armored Haradrim spearmen. You can already see them not having a good time. Shaken. Definitely a big problem, I think, for the Gondorians. You can see them trying to kind of even out their lines a little bit here. Some Gondorian spearmen charging into the Haradrim spearmen. That's going to be an easy fight for those Gondorians. But they are still so vulnerable to that constant ballista fire, and it's really starting to take its toll very, very quickly. Let's go ahead and let's slow things down a little bit and see what's going on the other side. Skinny has actually moved in to contest the area previously occupied by Ragnar Ironhide, and indeed still occupied. He's actually slowly pushing his way through the dismounted Serpent Guard in this canyon. There's enough Serpent Guard here in shield wall that they're going to be able to hold out for a very long time. Even with the addition of the Fountain Guards, these Serpent Guard, I think, are going to delay the offensive for quite some time. So I think it would be better even for Skinny to maybe break his force in half, maybe even send like 3/4 of it over to support his allies in the center and help them break through, because there's a big gap in the Harad lines right now that if he had his infantry over here, he would be able to surround the Haradrim main line and maybe start to pull this fight back in favor of Gondor. That's further. Let's see how things are going over here. Some of the Serpent Guards. Actually, I've committed my Serpent Bodyguard to this fight, and we're just wiping out what remains of Ragnar Ironhide's archers. We actually managed to deal with his general's bodyguard as well. You can see that they cut them down quite efficiently. As I mentioned previously in the introduction, the Gondorian bodyguard and Gondor knights do have a malus versus other cavalry units. So a unit like the Serpent Bodyguard, very, very fast, especially if they get a charge off on the Gondorians, can be very much a hard counter to that Gondor cav. Elsewhere on the main line, the Fountain Guard are the only ones who've really made any progress. They've just kind of thinned out the Haradrim lines and have pushed through, but there's still another line here yet to go. Cold Front has done a wonderful job at bogging down Ragnar's Gondorians just behind a wall of bodies. So many Haradrim spearmen, so many Southron warband. You're really seeing the power of these of these kind of regular rank-and-file units. Even the Haradrim Spearmen, they've got the numbers that if you can get them in a nice support role and mix them in with other infantry, they will actually last for a very long time and grind down the fatigue of more elite units, which allows them to be more swiftly and efficiently dealt with. Moving on over here, back to the front lines. Let's see what the Gondorians are doing with themselves. Looks like what remains of the veterans of Osgiliath committed by Skinny over here are being swiftly cut down by some Serpent Guard. There's actually some of WK Serpent Guard in there, some of my Muhad tribesmen, and my Serpent Guard who are slowly cutting these guys down. It looks like the Mumakil came back for round 3. This is exactly what I was worried about. Let's go ahead and let's let's fast forward that just a little bit. You can see the Gondorians now actually have managed to break their way out of there, surprisingly enough. So Coltrane is going to move in with some of his Muhad Berserkers, just try and keep them tied down for as long as possible. Just slowly weakening the fatigue of these Gondorian forces while we keep our reserves more or less in good shape. We've still got some Trollmen in the back there that are only warmed up, some Serpent Guard and things like that who are still in a healthy state of fatigue. You can see some more Gondorian reinforcements. Master Blaster now committing his shielded Fountain Guard to the fight. But I don't know if it's going to be enough. These Gondorians just being buried behind walls of Haradrim and pelted from that hilltop up there with that ballista, which has just gotten so many kills. And that constant fire damage is just breaking Master Blaster's forces, sending his Axemen of the Sarnak routing again and again. In comes the Mumakil from the flank from WK. Look at this. This is going to cause another massive rout. Oh, those poor Gondorians. One of the missiles now going down. I'm not sure if that was Pelargia Marines or just attrition over time, but it looks like there is a little bit of breakage. Could have sworn I saw something fighting to the death. Yeah, there it is. It's in there somewhere. Some Gondor infantry, 150 or so of them, fleeing off the battlefield. Or maybe it's more like 26. Yeah, there you go. It's 26. Well, those Mumakil definitely took a toll on the Gondorians, broke up their lines, allowed the Haradrim to advance, and kind of break up their formation a little bit further. WK definitely making great use of his Mumakil. See, with renewed vigor, Master Blaster charging forward with his Athelian Rangers, who are fresh and not bad in melee at all. Ranger units tend to be pretty strong in melee. In addition to being deadly at range, they are quite lightly armored, though, that being their drawback. Axemen of Osarnak now charging back into battle after having routed 3 or 4 times. It's looking like a tough fight for Gondor so far. They definitely need some reinforcements. Master Blaster's army is really beginning to run out of steam. What do we got here in the back lines? Looks like some of the Hashari from WK just hunting down those Pelargia Marines. Looks like those would be Skinny's Pelargia Marines, which I think may have routed earlier. Maybe that was Master Blasters, I'm not too sure. But in any case, they got cut down by those Hashari. Gondor moved forward with some of their cavalry to try and counter them, but just not fast enough. Those cavalry, I think, would have been able to very swiftly deal with the light infantry that are the Hashari. Looks like the Trebuchet from Master Blaster now down on the lowlands, out of ammunition, tossing its disgusting rotten meat payloads into the Haradrim forces. Maybe trying to kill the Mumakil. Might be trying to hit them directly and just kill them outright. Not a bad idea. So I can see that our forces are beginning to thin out a little bit in the center, so I'm actually going to move in with my Serpent Guard. One of my very depleted units of Serpent Guard now down to a mere 62, but still more than enough to deal with these Gondorians on the flank. These Gondor Spearmen don't have a chance against the combined might of Trollmen, Serpent Guard, and Hashari. And those poor Athelian Rangers just getting cut down by the Muhad Berserkers. Though it says they're pulling it back a little bit. It could be because the Muhads and the Trollmen are quite well and truly exhausted at this point. It's a pretty cool shot there with the Mumakil in the background. I quite enjoy that. And look at those Athelian Rangers. Just going hard against the Trollmen, doing their best to try and hold the line. More Axemen of Lasarnak. Probably again coming back from routing, trying to just plug the gaps in the Gondorian line. Actually, Gondor is managing to win over on the flank, believe it or not. The Muhad Berserkers being beaten back by a combination of what appears to be Fountain Guard and Wardens of the White Tower. The Sicilian Rangers over on this end have done a great job for themselves, cutting through the ranks of the Southron archers and managing to actually break through the Haradrim lines entirely. So if they bring them in from behind, they may be able to rout this unit of Muhad Berserkers, which is really struggling in the center against the Gondorians. The Gondorians kind of bringing it back a little bit in terms of the infantry fight. Still, there is a lot of reserves yet to come from Harad. We got one unit of Trollmen, one unit of Dismounted Serpent Guard, and another unit of Trollmen from Cold Front. They've managed to handily beat back the forces of Ragnar Ironhide. Skinny still has a large number of his forces over on this end, but I don't know where the rest of them have gone. He may have moved them over onto this side, which indeed he has. Got some of his Lasarnak nobles and his Fountain Guard have managed to just cleave their way through the Southron warband. Finally, Gondor is making some progress. Over here, it looks like we've got some... Actually, these are my Serpent Guard trying to deal with these Gondorian spearmen. I might have actually accidentally charged them into the front, which is going to be a costly mistake for my poor Serpent Guard. Yeah, some of the Lasarnak nobles over here getting a little bit caught on the corpse of the Mumakil. That is one of the things to watch out for with Mumakil, is that the bodies are a little bit bugged. They're very big, and your army can get caught on them and get a little bit stuck in combat. So that is something you want to watch out for and try and avoid if at all possible. I'm now pulling out with my Serpent Bodyguard, trying to get them out of there and maybe go into the rear of those Gondorian spearmen and finish them off for good. Although it looks like hammer and anvil strikes have already gone into them, which is why they are so depleted when only fighting Haradrim or Southron warbands. Let's see what we got here. This Gondorian spearmen still trying to hold the line. Looks like I'm maybe trying to set up for another charge with my Serpent Guard, but I might have lost micro on them and I could just be having my attention focused elsewhere in the battle. But let's... Oop, a little bit of lag there. Let's move on back to the front lines and see how things are going. Gondorians still managing to beat back Haradrim reinforcements, but I think now with the addition of some Muhad tribesmen, these are actually my Muhad tribesmen up here in a great position to rain down death and destruction upon the Gondorians. Look at that. Those Wardens of the White Tower just getting cut down alongside their Fountain Guard brothers by those Muhad jabs. You can see another volley coming in, claiming the lives of many of those elite Gondorian infantrymen. And now Harad sees an opportunity to try and turn this around. WK, actually no, these are my Southron archers. Oh, there goes my general getting cut down by the Gondorian spearmen and charged them into the front of that unit again. Big mistake on my part. But my Southron warband now surging forward, looking to surround the final Gondorian stand. Some of their best units still holding the Haradrim at bay. Oh, and in come the Mumakil out of nowhere. I think these might be Cold Front's Mumakil. No, still WK's Mumakil. They're still kicking, still being a nuisance. The Haradrim have really cleaned up the Gondorians in the center here. Mostly thanks to the excellent use of Mumakil by WK and the teamwork that we used to try and take down the Pelargir Marines together so that we could actually use these Mumakil in a decisive manner. Yeah, those poor Gondorians. Let's get one more nice shot in there. Look at that. Well, this Mumakil just being monsters, cutting down Gondorians left and right. Let's see how the rest of Skinny's army is doing. I think he really needs to move to get some of these guys get moving and maybe try and force the issue with Cold Front either here or move over and maybe try and help his allies, try and bring things back. There's not a ton of forces left from Harad. We are down to our last 20%. And he's got a lot of fresh Gondorians that could cut through our Southron archers and our Muhad tribesmen. The biggest kind of danger is going to be the Trollmen. But still, I think they're going to fare a lot better over here on the front lines than they would anywhere else. And still, he's got that unit of cavalry, so maybe if he kind of picks a nice fight here, some hammer and anvil charges would be able to turn the fight around in favor of Gondor. I think it was one of the Gondorian generals looking like he got cut down in the center by the Trollmen. I think the only Gondorians left standing at this point are Skinny's infantry, so there's some there and maybe a few Lasarnak nobles and things like that over here still stuck on the Gondorian, or on the Mumakil's corpse. Yeah, these Fountain Guard and the Lasarnak nobles have pushed a little bit too far ahead. They've done a lot of damage. I mean, they're standing in the midst of a sea of fallen foes, but there's still so many of those wicked Southron spears just assailing them from all sides that, yeah, they really have no opportunity at this point to pull it back. So really, I think this is all that Gondor has left. It really comes down to Skinny and how he's going to use his remaining forces. Well, I suppose there's these spearmen here from Ragnar Ironhide, those AP spears, but there goes another one of the generals from Gondor. It'll be interesting to see what Skinny is going to do now. I think it's safe enough to fast forward. We got some admit defeats there, probably from most of the Gondorian players. Ragnar Ironhide's forces have now been successfully repelled, and it's really down to Skinny to see what he can do here. So looks like he is actually going to try and press the issue a little bit. He's going to move forward with his Gondorians. There's really not a whole lot that he can do, so I suppose this is as good as anything. Let's enjoy this. One final charge here by the Gondorians, just going for glory, not even trying to win their way back to their homes in the north. They're just going to go right for it and try and kill as many of these Haradrim as possible. This hated rival of Gondor. Come on, guys, do it. Those shield wall dismounted Serpent Guard are just going to push through the extra mass, allowing them to beat back the Gondorians. And the Gondorians have very high mass, but if they're not in shield wall, they can get pushed through quite efficiently by these Serpent Guard, and they're just breaking up that formation and butchering those Gondorian infantry. So that's why you're seeing the Gondorians here get beat so badly. It is because the Serpent Guard are in shield wall and have that higher mass and can just do what they're doing to the Gondorians right now. In terms of stats, the Gondorians are quite similar and significantly cheaper by about 150 florins. So this is kind of an atypical engagement, I think, in favor of the Serpent Guard. Let's see what the rest of the Haradrim are trying to do with themselves now. I think they've basically extinguished all of their Gondorian resistance. Let's just take a quick look here at the carnage on the center line. Look at this, just thousands upon thousands of dead Haradrim, dead Gondorians. It's a beautiful sight to see. These are the kind of battles I really like to cover. But now that the Haradrim have cleaned up the Gondorians in the center, they are now moving around with everything that remains of their armies. So there's a lot of trollmen in there, some fairly healthy units of trollmen, and a single solitary Mumakil, who I think is the only one to make it to the end of the battle. So the Gondorians under Skinny just kind of sitting here, I think, just waiting their fate, waiting for the Haradrim to get here, having accepted their fate. And yeah, we're going to see the final engagement take place in just a few moments here. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to fast forward and just watch these Gondorians in the meantime, see how well they do against the Serpent Guard. Oh, there goes one of the Gondorian generals. Looks like he got caught on a Serpent Guard or on Mumakil or something. So the addition of those Trollmen from Cold Front, a full health unit of Trollmen, are going to be able to beat back the Gondorians. The Trebuchet crew that was in the fight now fleeing. Those Gondorian infantrymen not having a good time either. And it looks like the rest of the Gondorians are now engaged. There is no help that can be sent for the beleaguered Gondorian infantrymen over there in that pass. Muhad tribesmen here just getting scythed down by the Gondorian winged swordsmen. The only reason these guys are actually managing to kill any of the winged swordsmen is because I believe the Muhad tribesmen are AP in melee. But still, those Gondorians cutting down the Mumakil, or cutting down the Muhad tribesmen. The Mumakil is going to come in from behind and just do what the Haradrim have done so well this entire game, is just pin the Gondorians in place with a lot of bodies and use your Mumakil to crush their massed ranks of infantry. Looks like we got some South-run archers from WK up there, lending a little bit of fire support to the Haradrim down in the canyon. Gondorian still holding well against the exhausted Haradrim, even the Trollmen that are in there. But now that the Haradrim have broken through in the rear, the Gondorians are going to get charged from behind by Serpent Guard, by a healthy unit of Trollmen, and indeed some Mumakil. Look at that, just murdering those Gondorians. Gonna go ahead and just fast forward a little bit here. Witness that final last stand of Gondor. Another mass rout here precipitated by the Mumakil, who have just done that time and time again to the Gondorians throughout the course of this battle. You can see the coordination here. At the same time the Mumakil are running through, disrupting the formation, the rest of the Haradrim infantry are just surging forward. Another mass rout here. A very healthy unit of Gondorians fleeing for their lives. It's Gondorian winged swordsmen now being held at bay after having massacred those Muhad tribesmen. But against the demons of the desert, they are going to fall short. More victorious Haradrim from Cold Front, now freed up from this engagement over here. Able to come in and cut off the retreat of the remaining Gondorian infantry. And it looks to me like none of the Gondorians are going to escape this battle. Let's go ahead and just fast forward that a little bit here. Yeah, my Serpent Bodyguard, what remains of them, running down the stragglers. Over in the center, Gondorians have been completely surrounded and massacred. There's almost none of them left, just the last handful of survivors being cut down. Gondorian winged swordsmen, the last men standing, fighting hard against the demons of the desert, but with that Mumakil and the surround that's going on here, they're not going to be able to do too much. And that is going to be all she wrote for Gondor. A very close battle, the Haradrim down to a meager 14%. The Gondorians, however, lost their entire force. Taking a look at the kills here. Dino Man definitely did very well in the early game. We saw how badly he beat our infantry. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the problems for Gondor came about a little bit later with them not coordinating their attacks as well. Ragnar definitely needed a lot of help to push through Cold Front's forces, and unfortunately Ironhide, Master Blaster was a little bit farther back. I think maybe he expected us to deploy up there on the bluffs and maybe try and flank the Gondorians, but because of where he deployed, he was way too far back to really consolidate any of the gains that Dino Man 9877 made and keep the pressure on the Haradrim. So we had a chance to recover and allow our troops a chance to regain their fatigue and stuff like that, and to form a solid strategy. But in any case, good job to everybody involved. Definitely kept us on our toes. We had to really be careful with our Mumakil. So great job to the Gondorians, and great job to my teammates as well, especially WK, who came out with the most kills by far in this game, getting, I think, about 800 or so more kills than I did. And his Mumakil really, I think, saved this game for us. Otherwise, the Gondorians would have ground us into dust. But in any case, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!